Bitcoin is way too unstable. I mean, look at the price just over the last month. It's all over the place. This is a comment I received recently, and it's a common one I receive all the time. More specifically, guy said, how is Bitcoin stable? It's gone from less than $1 to over $100,000. The value fluctuates all the time. It was at 109K, now it's 85K. Tomorrow it's 50K? How can you spend a coin that's value changes all the time? Seems like the price has to be fixed to make it a real currency. Else it just replaces gold as backing for the dollar. So that's in response to a comment I made in a video where I said, Bitcoin is as stable as it gets. So where does this disconnect come from? It comes from the fact that the commenter only sees or understands Bitcoin in terms of its fiat-denominated exchange rate. You see, I don't care about the volatility of Bitcoin's dollar exchange rate. That is just a function of human beings and of the adoption curve more than it says anything about Bitcoin itself. So more on the dollar side of that later. But what I care about and what my response was to that commenter, here's why I said Bitcoin is stable. Bitcoin still has a total fixed supply of 21 million. The network still produces a new block on average every 10 minutes. The uptime of that network in the last 12 years is 100%. The halving of the block subsidy occurs every 210,000 blocks. There have been 4 halvings so far, and you can see exactly what the supply issuance schedule is of each one will be for the next 115 years until all Bitcoins are mined. There's a difficulty adjustment for the miners every 2016 blocks. Bitcoin at the protocol layer has never been hacked. The global hash rate continues to climb, reaching all-time highs just in the last month, strengthening the network more and more every day. The Bitcoin network remains decentralized with an unchanged monetary policy and no single group or entity who can change the rules. To me, all that sounds extremely stable. In dollar terms, the exchange rate of 1 Bitcoin is notoriously volatile. But I would argue that this is to be expected for multiple reasons. The main two being, 1, the dollar itself is not a fixed measurement. The quantity of dollars changes constantly. I previously used the example of measuring the distance of a mile as 5,280 feet, but using a ruler where the amount of inches in the ruler changes every day. That doesn't mean miles are volatile. The other reason is Bitcoin is a brand new form of money, still in the very early stages of adoption. Volatility in Bitcoin's fiat-denominated exchange rate, aka its price, does not say anything about Bitcoin itself, the token, or the network. Bitcoin trades 24/7, 365 globally in what's probably the most free market that's ever existed on the planet. So the idea that it would follow some kind of perfect linear adoption is just silly. Its price volatility is a function of fickle human beings who trade in and out of an asset based on emotion and often with significant leverage. It's also a function of the fact that there's roughly $900 trillion of money, assets, and stuff in the world. About half of that, 450 trillion to 500 trillion, is global private wealth that's just trying to find a way to store its value into the future. So all that money, 450 trillion to 500 trillion, is trying to figure out how to accurately price this asset that's unlike anything else the world has ever seen before. If you're just going to say, well, Bitcoin doesn't have any value, or why does it have value? I have other videos on that, so watch those on the channel because I'm not going to go all the way into that right here. But as more and more people and more institutions and more nation states come to the conclusion, inevitably, that Bitcoin has value, the market is trying to figure out how to accurately price this asset that has a total fixed final supply, which is unlike any other asset. Basically, every other asset or commodity has the ability to increase the supply issuance in response to greater demand. No matter how great the demand is for Bitcoin, the supply issuance schedule is fixed and the total amount does not change. When supply is inelastic related to demand, that means the only lever that can change is price. So as this nascent, emergent form of new money undergoes its early adoption, of course it sees high volatility. Again, Bitcoin's market cap is under $2 trillion. That's $450 trillion of global private wealth sloshing in and out of a $2 trillion asset class. Of course, it's going to make some waves. But if you zoom out, both global hash rate and price on a log chart will tell you that adoption basically only goes in one direction, up and to the right. By the way, this whole process is not uncommon at all for an asset undergoing monetization. Gold today is thought of as one of the most stable, if not the most stable stores of value on the planet. That's simply because we were all born after gold already underwent its own volatile monetization phase. In ancient and medieval times, gold's value fluctuated wildly across different regions because of different supply constraints, wars, discoveries of new gold deposits. debasement of gold coins by the rulers. In the 19th century, we had gold rushes. Major gold discoveries, like in California, caused sharp fluctuations in the gold price as new supply flooded the market. So as gold became universally recognized as money, liquidity increased, large market participants start to stabilize demand, governments and central banks start holding gold reserves, which reduces the price swings, and over centuries, fewer massive new gold discoveries were made, so sudden supply shocks became rarer, even though we do still make new discoveries of massive gold deposits every year. So how long do you think that process took that I just talked about? That's hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. So Bitcoin is 16 years old. Just like gold, it started with high volatility. So as Bitcoin's market matures, liquidity deepens, institutional adoption grows, volatility is expected to decrease, just as it did with gold. So once Bitcoin is a 10 trillion, 50 trillion, 100 trillion, $200 trillion asset, its fiat-denominated exchange rate will probably be less volatile, just like gold's is today. So when gold was becoming monetized and its value was constantly fluctuating, if you had a 24/7, 365 window into the daily price of gold, would you look at that and say gold itself is volatile? I don't know. I personally don't think gold itself has changed much. Last I checked, it was 79 protons and 79 electrons. Seems like we just listed a whole bunch of external factors and human factors that made gold's perceived value, or its value relative to other items, change. But nothing changed about gold. Same with Bitcoin. The perception of it in the market can change, and volatile humans can change, and the amount of dollars flowing in and out of it can change, but Bitcoin itself does not change. That's why when you see a dip like the one we're experiencing now, if you understand Bitcoin and you believe in the fundamentals of the asset, you're happy. You can get more of it at a discount relative to your dirty fiat. And if you want to better understand that argument, click on this video right here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and as always, remember, Bitcoin's inevitable.